On Sunday, May 17, 2026, hundreds of thousands of Americans will gather on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The event is called Rededicate 250, a massive 9-hour jubilee of worship and prayer organized right before the nation's 250th birthday. This is a heavily supported operation. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, the Secretary of Defense, and various cabinet members are all headlining the gathering, calling the country to officially rededicate itself to God. Supporters draw their inspiration directly from 1776, when the Continental Congress called for a national day of fasting and prayer to seek divine guidance as the Revolutionary War escalated. Many attendees simply want to pray for their country's healing, which is a common and sincere expression of faith. But doing so at a government-sponsored event with the explicit goal of a national official rededication blurs the line between personal religion and a state mandate. For critics, this gathering looks like a high-profile staging ground for Christian nationalism. That is a political ideology asserting that American civic identity and Christian identity are exactly the same thing, and that the federal government should advocate for specific Christian values. The danger of merging church and state in this way is that it creates an in-group and an out-group. If being a true American requires being a Christian, anyone of a different faith, or no faith at all, is effectively reduced to a second-class citizen. This leaves us with a difficult question. Can people of faith gather to joyfully pray for the United States without demanding that the government officially unite the country under one specific religion? To understand how the founders intended religion and government to interact, we have to look at the documents they left behind. The Declaration of Independence famously uses specific moral language, stating that all people are endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. That language was highly intentional. It established a moral framework that superseded the authority of the British king. But there is an 11-year gap between the Declaration and the actual creation of the United States government. By 1787, when delegates met in Philadelphia to write the Constitution, they built an operating system for a secular republic. They abandoned the religious language of 1776, leaving the new Constitution entirely silent on the authority of God. They went even further by building strict legal barriers. Article 6 of the Constitution explicitly forbids any religious test as a requirement for holding public office. Then came the First Amendment, which operates as a dual mechanism. It strictly prohibits the government from establishing an official state religion, while simultaneously protecting the free exercise of religion for every citizen. The founders omitted a national religion on purpose. They knew from European history that state-sponsored religion leads to oppression, so they kept the government secular to protect the religious freedom of everyone. The push to officially declare America a Christian nation is a debate that has happened before. It reached a boiling point during the Civil War in the 1860s, when some ministers argued the conflict was divine punishment for a godless constitution. The National Reform Association lobbied Congress for a Christian amendment, rewriting the preamble to recognize Jesus Christ. The House Judiciary Committee voted against it, noting the dangers of uniting church and state, and declaring it inexpedient to put any religious creed into the Constitution. Because these historical amendments failed, the secular framework of 1787 survived intact. Claims that America was legally founded as a Christian nation are historically flawed. The constitutional debate was settled long ago. If the law of the land is secular, how should a Christian view state power? To answer that, we have to shift our focus from American history to biblical theology and ask what is required of a kingdom citizen. The Bible validates public prayer. In books like Jeremiah and 1 Timothy, believers are explicitly commanded to seek the peace of the city they live in and to pray for their secular leaders. But there is a sharp contrast when it comes to holding political power. When Jesus stood trial before the Roman governor Pilate, he directly rejected earthly authority, stating clearly, "My kingdom is not of this world." Christ refused to use political force to establish his reign. Because of that example, theologians argue that demanding state power to enforce the Christian faith is a form of idolatry that contradicts the gospel itself. Christianity, at its core, relies on voluntary love and persuasion. Using state coercion or government mandates to promote faith violates the biblical command to love and respect our neighbors, regardless of what they believe. Praying for the United States is a good and healthy practice, but we can also appreciate that the founders kept the government out of religion, precisely to ensure that everyone has the freedom to pray, or not pray, as their conscience dictates. Since Jesus himself rejected earthly political power, Christians don't need the government to endorse or enforce their religion to be faithful to it. A vibrant, flourishing faith community does not require a political mandate or an official national rededication. It thrives on genuine spiritual dedication.